first and 20, second and 20. How difficult is it to kind of find your flow in a game like we saw last week?
Very, and we did it. The 2 touchdowns we had, we did overcome penalties. Crazy enough, just over time, there was, 4 other drives where we got pushed back, whether it's lost yardage plays or penalties that, that makes it tough, makes it hard against a really good defense like the Titans.
How do you account for that flag fest?
Well, I mean, it's if it was that simple, we would have had it solved. I guess is some is technique, some of it could be attributed to lack of a momentary lapse of judgment in one instance. In others, it's reps in practice where guys get themselves out of position a little bit, so it puts them in a position to grab a little bit more than they would normally. Sometimes it's attributed to the people you're playing. They put you in those positions because you're playing against different group, different look, different different stunts, different coverages. So but some can be frustration level. So all of the above that obviously stops you from being successful and really choppy on offense.
He's always talking about getting the ball out quickly. It looked like there was a couple times Sunday where he was maybe hanging onto it a little longer than he normally would want to. What do you think was the reason for that, and how does he make that adjustment going forward?
Oh, scheme it better, coach it better, don't get behind where you're going to hold the ball a little bit longer because you feel like you're pressing a little bit. All of us collectively, I don't mean that directed at Baker, I just mean just in general. You can't make it all up in one play, calling it and playing. So that's a big part of it when you're in a rhythm, running it, throwing it, getting completions, getting stops. You're not behind the chains, then it's a lot easier to stay within rhythm.
Sometimes when he held on to the ball too long, was it because the Titans were taking away what he wanted to do first, and then he had to try to get to the second and third read?
Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's they take away. Sometimes it could be a little bit of leakage up front, so he's got to sidestep a little bit and create vision, and that's every quarterback. You're sidestepping, and all of a sudden, by the time you get your eyes back there, the window's closed a little bit, so you move on. Sometimes a receiver gets rerouted on the initial play to Higgins that set us up for the first touchdown. He got rerouted. Really, so that took him off a little bit holding onto the ball because he got rerouted, which we weren't anticipating. So sometimes that happens. Reroutes, a little bit of leakage, taking away the first read, all the above. Correct.
Down to the 4-yard.
Mm-hmm. And we had great protection that play. That's what allowed us to get the ball down there. Is we had great protection. He got rerouted. We ended up with our spacing was a little bit compromised. So, but that was a part of it. And that was one of those plays, one of the drives that was right after Gregg's, what they called a, personal foul coming back towards the line of scrimmage. But it was one of them we were able to overcome it because of a play that Baker made and the protection we got.
Odell said yesterday that he's going to be watching out for cheap shots and dirty plays from Gregg Williams, coached guys, and that he teaches that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on Odell saying that? Is that something you guys
I don't have anything to say about that. I mean, that's his opinion. So, I mean, it's I'm going to stay away from commenting on a comment that somebody else makes. I think they played fine. We'd have been fine had we not gotten ourselves into position where we're at. Then you brought in Kendall, and then he got banged up, and Chris has taken all the snaps at right tackle. He goes over to left, and then you bring in Justin, who's been here a week. I thought they really battled. I really did. I thought the coaches did a great job. So from that end of it, that wasn't why we struggled and where we were. Those guys, that happens. I mean, teams lose players, and you got to figure out a way. So.
How much emphasis are you putting on the Jets' defense ability to generate turnovers. They had 4 takeaways in the opener, and we saw Gregg had a bunch. These guys were second last year.
I worked with Gregg back in 2008, and we played the Browns last year and ended up turning the ball over too much. And, you know, he likes to create disruption. That's what he likes to do. Likes to get after you, get you behind the chains, affect the quarterback, and in turn, you know, which puts you in a position. Now, some of those turnovers they created last week, I mean, the quarterback center exchange was one. I mean, there was a couple there, a tipped ball that got bad into a linebacker's hands. I mean, and that's part of it. Sometimes you've got to have some of those, but the reality is you've got to do a great job with their pressure packages and getting the ball out in time, and the receivers being, you know, getting their depths and not getting rerouted, so we can assess what's happening down the field and get the ball out on time.
As far as dealing with the blitz, you know, if you expect Gregg to bring it a lot, how have you seen him handle that, whether it's last year, early in camp this year?
Oh, he's fine. I mean, he's fantastic with us getting, you know, us in the right protections, where to go with the ball if they come, because you can't always block them all. He's really good at escaping, so it's hard to corral him. You know, so again, I don't have any problem there. We've just got to do a great job communicating so we're all on the same page, from receivers, quarterback, and then the O-line, in terms of can we protect them, or do we have to get the ball out? And then after that, with our timing and our rhythm, and you know, we're a little bit off the other day, and along with the penalties and some of the self-inflicted things that showed up, and that's what we got.
You mentioned Higgins on the first drive and really helped move the offense as a whole. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of Higgins' role in this offense, especially given Odell's star status along with Gregg.
Yeah, I talked about it last week, you know, and with AC out, so having him out and the role that he now steps up, you know, in terms of our starter. So, again, I think the number one thing is you can count on him. You can move him around. You can play him inside and outside, and you can count on him to make plays when afforded him. So, really good football player, been in this league a long time, understands what it takes to get himself ready each week and prepare. And so, again, I still think he has steps that he can continue to improve.
Like the penalties, and then when you got behind the score in the fourth quarter, it was hard to kind of establish the running game consistently. But there were times you guys ran the ball pretty well when you didn't have those in front of you. How did you think that the running game was, you know, aside from when you weren't able to run because of down and distance?
Run game was fine. I think you hit it on the head, Jake, that it was we ran the ball fine. Running the football wasn't the reason why we didn't produce more offensively. So, you know, I thought Nick ran hard with the ball. I thought we had some things that we were able to take advantage of, but at a certain point in the game, you know, we really weren't running it nearly as often. So I think is the best way to put it. But in order for us to be effective in most offenses, we got to be able to run the ball and play action and take advantage of the opportunities you get down the field.
It's only been one game, but how key is C.J. Mosley to that Jets defense? And, you know, I think there's an injury question about him. If he's not there, what kind of blow is that for them?
Well, like any frontline player, I guess the best way to put it, it's difficult to replace those guys. It would be for us on offense, it's difficult to replace some of your best players. That's why you can see whether it's defensively where you can struggle at times with a play here or there, and then offensively with a play here or there. It's not particularly over 60 plays, but it's a play here or there that possibly another player might not have made a mistake. So like we talked about our offensive line, I thought those guys battled their rear ends off, but there's a reason why you have starters. There's a reason why you pay certain players what you pay them for what they bring to your team. So when you lose those guys, you're hopeful that it stings a little bit. Otherwise, you're paying the wrong guys. I mean, that's really the way it is. When you pay those guys, you expect them to play like A-list players, just play to the level they play. And when you lose one of them, it is hard. It is difficult to replace them. So we'll anticipate him playing and, work a game plan accordingly.
On that toss fake and then throwback screen to Odell, you guys ran really early in the game Sunday. That drew the penalty from Robinson. Is that a play that you can even run with that rule, or do you have to get a different hook, when you come up to the line in order to be able to execute it?
Well, I think we're not. I don't know if we're at liberty to talk about, but they came back to us and said it shouldn't have been called. So obviously we could have done a better job with Gregg being flat and Odell bringing the defender to Gregg. If you talk from a coaching perspective, doing it better than they do it, that forget even the official. If we do it technically better, then that's not even a factor. So, but you're right. In terms of the ruling now, in terms of working yourself back towards the line of scrimmage, that is something that you always have to be conscientious of, especially the receivers.
Why wouldn't it have been a penalty? There shouldn't have been a penalty.
In their minds, it wasn't forcible contact, was what I remember from looking at it. I didn't commit it to memory, that they said it shouldn't have been called. But that's neither here nor there. That comes every week. I don't even mean it that way. There's multiple ones every week in our game and other games where they mention, hey, should have gone this, we'll talk to the official. That's part of it. They're human. That has nothing to do with us.
What challenges does Jamal Adams present you?
First of all, he loves to play the game of football. You can see that. I mean, we've gone against him in the past when I was at Tampa. So, you better bring it, because when he gets around the line of scrimmage, he's a physical man. And that's his game. His game is energy, physicality. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is getting him, they try to get him around the box. Now, Gregg likes to play a lot more too high coverages, so they probably play him a lot more, in the back end higher than he's used to. But when he gets around the ball, you have to count for him, because he's going to be very disruptive. He's one of their top players that we have to always be accounted for.
And the timing was a little bit off. You think that was the same case with Baker and Odell in the first real game action, that they just weren't quite on the same page, even though I know he had the 7 catches?
I would have thought that, but I didn't look at the film. I didn't see that. There wasn't, there could have been, a little route detail here or there that you're working through that I don't know if it would have been him and Odell other than just maybe a defensive look. So I don't think that was probably as big a factor as it could have been in terms of just, it's still going to be a work in progress like it is with every receiver, even guys that eventually that Baker will have been with or any quarterback's been with over a number of years. You're always working your timing and your rhythm and different looks. And so, and Odell's played a long time, and when you have receivers like that, in terms of their route running and their style.
Or obviously he was trying to make something happen to get back in the game, but what's your messaging to him about those picks?
Well, it's a little of everybody, and you'd have to talk to him in terms of, that part about, the choice route to Jarvis. We could have reset it, create a little bit more space, at the end, again, you're just trying to make something happen. So again, at that point, obviously he knows this, and we all know that you can't turn the ball over. I mean, you just can't. But that's everybody. That's just not always on the quarterback. That's on receiver depths. It's the details of what you do. It's on protection. So, and when the game was in the balance, and we've done a good job in the preseason of not turning it over. That hasn't been an issue. So, it's something that obviously we address it every week, and it's something that we know we can't have moving forward. But that was last week.
Gregg Williams is an aggressive defensive coordinator. He likes to bring the house. It's something he prides himself on. From your perspective, not only do you have to deal with that, but do you maybe even see a little opportunity there, being able to take advantage of an opponent's aggressiveness?
Well, you have to. I think that's number one, is the only way to strike fear in somebody to not bring pressure is you've got to hit explosive plays. You've got to take advantage of. If you don't, then there is no risk reward. It's all reward from their end of it. I mean, so at some point you have to have enough skill players that puts them on the defensive a little bit, to be fearful of what they do in terms of how much they come after you. Because you're better your skill players, the more that, they may want to back up a little bit and maybe roll to somebody. That's part of it. The second thing is when something presents itself, are you able to hit an explosive play? So that's all part of it. And when you don't, you might as well just count on continuing to get it. That's just the way it is. That's not only him, but just doing this for a while. That's kind of the way that you go. Now with him, I'm not sure he stops. I don't know if he has much of a deterrent, but it is what it is. That's who he is. Gregg's been successful because of that. I have a lot of respect for him. So it's not any disrespect. It's just that's the way it is. You have to be able to take advantage when somebody brings pressure, or you'll continue to get it.